Heavy metal rock.
Global mind.
So thank you again for taking the time. I know I was behind the eight ball for the your interview week. It's been busy, and I was out of town that week on vacation. So
Yeah, that's cool,
catch
man.
up. I
I've been
appreciate it.
on vacation as well. It's just, it's a weird time for sure to get interviews in and stuff.
Yeah, so let's kind of get into the new record, New Messiah. It comes out on Roar. I want first a couple things. The Roar is a division of Reigning Phoenix Music or RPM as
Yep.
they go by. And they got a lot of great metal acts on that label.
Yep.
It seems every year they keep on adding more. Other bands seem to be jumping ship to that label, and now they created this subset of the main label, Roar, and they brought on some really good bands like your band, Ash Savaries, and a few other ones. So kind of talk about how you guys connected with those guys.
Yeah, that's kind of it. So we were on Roar. We were on Roar for the last the two albums before. So essentially Roar rolled over into them, or they brought Roar into the fold. So that's part of one of the reasons that things got pushed back, because of that merger, right? So we became fish in a larger pond. With that, you've got, you want to fill up dates as far as releases and all that other good stuff. You don't want all of your releases to be done at the same time, because then, people get missed, so I'm sure it's just a matter of organization and getting things, released in a timely fashion as they should, so that they can, pay as much attention to their artists as possible during their release dates, but B, so you have you're staggering the artists. That's what I assume anyway. I would think as a business, that's kind of the way you would want to do it. Spread it out a little bit. So you're not overwhelming your promotion team with having to do all these things for different artists, but also to just make sure it's spread out so that your label is seeing releases over a certain amount of time. Your artist feels that they're getting some personal attention and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yep.
So on this record, obviously, you're still working with your longtime partner, Freddy Vidales, who's a great guitar player, and he plays the bass as well. You guys been, tag teaming this since the beginning. 2013, I think, is when you guys started
Yep.
music together. So talk about the process with him. It seems like, I mean, by this point, you guys are a pretty well-oiled machine. You made a few records together, so you kind of know one another pretty well.
Yeah, we've done it the same way since the beginning. So I mean, we it's weird because we both come from kind of old school band concepts, right? Like you get together and you hang out and you write music together. So for us, it was a little bit of a learning curve, I think, but we kind of embraced it as well. I mean, Freddie's definitely more of a computer nerd guy than I am. So I mean, he was really on board with what we're doing, and we have to do it because we live in separate parts of the country, right? So I live in Delaware and he lives in Arizona, so we're a country apart. So I mean, it made sense whenever so I departed Iced Earth for the second time, and because John needed to keep the band on the road more, as the music industry had changed from bands making money selling records and stuff to touring. I couldn't make that commitment, so I bowed out, graciously, and so Freddie continued on with the band for the completion of Dystopia, and then completion of a world tour. Then he bowed out, and we had, when we were touring together, I met Freddie whenever I went back to the band the first time. So we were, we had known each other at that point for 3 or 4 years, and we always got along really well. We had talked about doing some stuff together outside of Iced Earth anyway, and so this was the perfect opportunity. So as soon as he bowed out, he contacted me and said, "Hey, you want to get things rolling?" And I said, "Of course." So we got together. I think the one time we got together, really to kind of see, he wanted to see what kind of recording stuff that I had, and so that he could sort of mimic what I had, because I had done some recording, just scratch stuff for like Pyramaze and for Iced Earth and all that in my home studio. Nothing, finalized or anything like that. Just working. So, but we figured we could work with what we had. So he ended up getting an identical rig to mine so that we could have his Pro Tools rig. And then we've upgraded since then a couple times, but we pretty much have the same rigs, so it just makes it easier. It's kind of like a no nonsense kind of a thing, right? Um, and yeah, so that's basically how it all started. The first time we did sit down and we were messing around with some stuff. We wrote "This Is My Hell." I mean, pretty much the whole layout of the song, and that was kind of the start of Ashes of Aries. That was that song. So obviously that's one that I hold pretty dear in my heart because it is one of those things that we were actually able to work out and do sitting there together, and I remember it very very vividly. But since everything else pretty much since then has been sharing files back and forth, and I'm sure now in this day and age a lot of people do that. I mean, I know that you can do, and I have done guest vocal stuff on friends projects where I just do the recording here and I send it off. So I'm sure that there are a lot of bands that do it that way. It makes it a little bit easier. Sometimes, the guys that you're going to get along with best in a band are not going to be the guys right in your town. You may have to, have writing partners that are outside of that, even, around the world. Right. There's all kinds of stuff. I've got friends in Greece, and, I've done stuff, for certain things there, and, all over the place, Denmark, with Pyramaze and that. So it is the reality of modern music, right? But we, for us old school guys, it was a little bit of a learning curve, but I think we've gotten it. We get the whole thing now. So we share files back and forth, get on the phone, email, text, this is what I'm thinking with this song, and this is what I did here, this is what I did there, and we just do that back and forth until we got a complete record. Till we got at least 10 songs, and usually it's more than 10 songs, but 10 is what we shoot for, and then anything extra is just extra, right? So that's kind of where we're at. Usually 10 songs puts us at about the right mark, and then we just give a little extra if we can, or if we want to do that.
Yeah, you mentioned for guys that have been around a minute in music, that had to be a change going from the old school way of recording to how it's done now, primarily over, like you're saying, just shooting things over the internet, or dropping it on a storage box or something.
Yep. Yep.
It's different. It's an adjustment. It's not the same feel as being in a studio or whatever it used to be done.
Yeah, it is. But I I had the benefit, and maybe it's benefit, maybe it's not. I mean, I think it's a benefit. I mean, I had the benefit of, my first recording was done on 2-inch tape. You know what I mean? So it's like, Burn Offerings was a lot of analog in there in that recording. And it does give a cool sound. Probably one of the reasons why I think now that records are coming back so strongly, because of the sound. It sounds different, because most stuff is all digital recorded, but when you dump it down onto vinyl, then it's analog again, right? So you get those warm tones and things like that. As long as the producer is taking care of those things, and most modern producers, and let's face it, a lot of digital stuff, they can really warm up and make it sound very, very much analog, but at the same time, it's just kind of cool. And I know a lot of people are really big, audiophiles with the records and stuff, and that's cool. And I enjoy it myself, but yeah, there's a certain aspect of it. I know the cool things about being in the studio. I've been, I have been blessed to have some really great times in a studio like Morris Sound, you know what I mean? And just, something that's very, very much a kind of part of the metal culture for a lot of bands that came out of the Tampa Bay area at that time, or even beyond that. But, even outside bands that came in and recorded in Morris Sound. So I've had that experience, and that's awesome. And I love it. And I still, I'd still love to go, if somebody said, hey, I'm, recording something in Morristown, why don't you meet me down there? 100%, I'd absolutely love to get back in that. But what we do is really something that works for us. partially, partially because, our schedules, and partially because, our budget. We're not looking at a huge budget like days gone by. Our record company said, "Hey, we can afford this much. Can you make a record for that?" And we go, "Yep, we can," because we're going to do most of the stuff, most of the tracking we do in our home studios. So we save the budget primarily for the mix and mastering. If we're doing drums in a studio, then we do it there. The last drums we did, for this record, we did in the studio in Phoenix. Freddie and Kyle did them, along with Byron, our producer, and so, obviously those costs are a little bit more when you're talking. You've got to rent the studio out, get there, mic them up, and all that other good stuff. Have an engineer do all that, so that costs a little bit more. But it doesn't really. I don't know that it costs any more than when we were paying Van to do the drums. Because he was doing them in his home studio, but we were paying him to do the stuff. Freddie and I, we do not get paid. Everything we do is gratis. It's going towards the record. We have other jobs that we don't rely on the music to make money. We do it for the love of it, and we want the product to be solid at the end. So every bit of money that we get from the record company to do the record goes to the record. Either the paid musicians, or our engineer, producer, the studio time, and all that other good stuff. It all goes to them. And if we were, maybe more modern folks that had knowledge, more knowledge as far as recording, at home, and we could produce more and get more detailed with it, maybe it would cost us a little bit less. But I don't have those skills, and I quite frankly don't have the time.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
I make my tracks as clean as possible with the least amount of reverb in the room. I try to make it so that the engineer can just take those tracks and just sprinkle the love on them, and give them the reverb and all that good stuff that they need, to sound like nicely produced vocals. But I just try to keep it bare bones, and give as many tracks as I can of vocals with harmonies and things like that. And then we pick and choose and see what that's where I take my time, is that I do harmonies and all that other good stuff, do my layering of vocals and things like that to make the best final product. And so yeah, I don't have the time to get on, and I probably could, maybe I retire, maybe I become a YouTube junkie, and everything out about Pro Tools.
Well, I
Uh,
was gonna say, in regards to the, like you guys don't make money, you don't get paid for doing the recordings and all that stuff. We've been running the magazine for, I don't know, 18 years or something.
mhm.
And we don't care about that stuff. I mean, we go out just to support. We do it because we enjoy it, and we like to support the music. And you guys are a perfect example of that. You're doing it for the music
Yep.
and for the fans, because the fans want to hear this music.
Yeah.
And you talk about how much attention you pay to detail with the vocals and all that stuff. Obviously, your vocals are still great. They have been for a long time, and we're going to talk about that in some of these songs on the new record. I've heard the promo, of course, and we'll get into that in a minute. But that means a lot to fans when you're doing things for them, and there's no ulterior motives other than for the music and for the fans, and they appreciate that. They genuinely do.
Yeah. And yes, absolutely. And uh, I'm we're doing it for us too, right? And that's the thing with the music. It has to be something that we really enjoy and really love. So, we don't like, and that's the beautiful part about like working with Freddie. We don't have egos. We throw that shit out the window. If we're building a song, if we feel as though there's something in it that's not working or whatever, we may toss it aside, or we may take that part out or whatever. Uh, and it's no egos in it. It's just like, for instance, I was doing this one part as a vocal part over top of this really cool bass line, and for the life of me, I can't remember what song it is. I probably need to, because I've talked about this before, uh, but it just sticks out in my mind because he was like, man, I like what you're doing there, but I really think that this bass part really needs to like sing. It really needs, because it is a nice transition and what I'm going for. And I'm like, okay, man, cool, no problem. I don't, that other part's out of there, it's about that. It's about, compromising and doing if there's something that somebody really loves or one of us really loves in there, then we don't even hesitate. We go, you got it. If that's you, if that's what you need, man, absolutely. And much the same, hey, dude, that kind of sucks. Can you, you know what I mean? We're that open about it. It's like, I'm not really. So, we try to leave the egos outside and really do the best for the songs. And at the end of the day, if we're both happy with it, then that's the best thing. And I think that I hope that you can hear that in the music, that we really do take care of it and put everything that we have into it. Our heart and soul is in all this. We don't do things to just go, we're going to throw it against the wall. Not everything's a hit. Not everything is going to, strike a chord with people, but we do our very best, and we put, thought into the whole process. So,
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the the second song outside the intro song, which is called Novus Ordo, but the New Messiah song. I was going with this. The song's great. The New Messiah is a great song. But also, I remember clearly, I think it was a couple of years ago, you did like a guest spot on one of the Queensryche shows. And it was Baltimore, I think it was when they're playing in Baltimore.
yeah, because I live close to there. I mean, I'm about 2 hours away.
Yeah, and this I know this because it was in the middle news circle, and it's on YouTube and stuff. And you did a cover of Queen of the Reich, and I think it was another one of Queensryche songs. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, this just sounded great!" You got Matt and Todd, who are tremendous vocalists. How did how did that happen?
Oh, dude, it was just super cool, man. I mean, we've been friends for a while. Reached out, and we were, whenever they're in the area, we try to reach out and go see them. My wife and I, love those guys, and uh, you know, um, it just really works out. Our great friend, our sound guy for Iced Earth for a long time. When I was on the road with Iced Earth, Andrew was the sound engineer for them. And then Casey's a friend of ours. He did drums on the Schaefer Barlow project. I mean, there's a lot of connection there. A lot of friends. So it's just cool to go see him. And so we went there, and I hadn't actually expected to sing at all. But they said, hey, what song would you want to do? I'm like, well, dude, if we're gonna do a song, let's go ahead and do Queen of the Reich, because that just makes sense, right? So yeah, so that was cool, man. It was really good time, and really what a treat, man. I mean, I was a freaking Queensryche fan in the '80s, and just what an absolute treat. Now, I get why it's really special for Todd, man, to be a part of that band, because I'm sure he was much the same, a huge fan before he became part of the band. And yeah, so that's wild, right? So it was really a treat for me to be able to perform with them.
Okay, so I'm gonna make sure we're correcting this. The cover, the Elton John cover song, and the house fell down. He plays guest drums on that one.
Yep.
Got it, got it, got it. Good, good. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a huge Queensryche fan too, as you see back there, Minecraft. I mean, there's a lot of great metal stuff that stands out through the years. But I saw Queensryche. I shot them here locally. I'm in Huntsville, in Alabama, and they played here. I think it was a year ago. I think, and they were doing the Warning, that the whole record.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Todd's a great vocalist. He breathes new life into the songs. I mean, when he sings these songs, so I can see why that would be such an honor for you guys. But it was great. But I mean, both of you guys sounded great. The covers were great. You sounded fantastic on that. But yeah, talk about the New Messiah song. I mean, that song's got this really good galloping sound to it. As soon as it kicks in, it's like, hey, we're getting into this record right off the onset.
And that's kind of what we intended with the song, because it is kind of like really in your face. And of course, we didn't really know that was going to be the title to the record or anything like that. It just worked out really well that way. And of course, it does go a little bit along. It's sort of an echo of Emperors and Fools. New Messiah is kind of in the same thing, as far as the power struggle, or the power, dominance of power kind of a thing. idea, and I'll leave that, interpretation up to the listener. But it's very the lyrical content for me is very tongue in cheek. Kind of, when I was writing it, I was thinking about, how Iron Maiden wrote some songs about certain things, and was, a little tongue in cheek with the delivery of it. So there's some sarcasm and things like that in there as well. And people, I think, will pick that up. It's like, you know, hey, we're here to help, but all you have to do is, do what we say. That's kind of thing. And guess what? Human beings hate that.
Yeah.
Hate told what to do. So,
Yeah, that's right.
um,
You're right. I can see that in the song. The other song I was going to say too, and this is kind of the dynamic between you and Freddie at this point, because you guys made so much music together. I like Two Graves. I like that song a lot because of the interplay there between your vocals and his guitar. The melodies that he's just kicking back and forth between your vocal lines and stuff. I think it works great on that song.
right. And I think that is, certainly something that we've built upon, and we kind of know what to expect, or we can expect certain things. And like, I'll ask him more often now, like, hey man, I'm doing this part, can you, do this thing to match that? If I'm going to do this high part here, can you kind of match with your guitar some of the notes? And and just so it really, I don't know, just highlights certain things, and I think that's where we're kind of growing together, as far with each record. We get a little bit more detail and things like that, and a little more care with every record. And hopefully that will continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the presser it was talking about you mentioned that the sound on this one harkens a little more towards more thrash metal on this particular record. And I think I mean I agree with that. One of the songs that stood out for me that's very Testament like, I would say, is Atrophy. That one, as soon as that one when I was hearing it, it's like, man, that's old school thrash metal right there.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely Bay Area, influence, man, for sure. And that's one of the things, man. When I was coming up in the '80s, I mean, dude, I was 13 when Kill 'Em All dropped. You know what I mean? And that kind of really changed everything, man. It changed the whole landscape, right? Bay Area then was like pow. It was like through it was right there. And it's not to say that there weren't some predecessors prior to that, but obviously, that was Metallica's. With their debut, it just kind of changed things for me, certainly. And obviously, I fell in line with that as well. I mean, Chuck Billy's a huge influence for me, and that's kind of what my brother and I were doing when I first, I was in a band with my brother called Cauldron, and we were very much thrash oriented. And my brother was a big death metal fan as well. So then you had kind of some of that interplay with that as well. So, I mean, that's a little bit kind of what Freddie and I have. He's got a big death metal influence, and history with death metal stuff, with death metal bands. I had that Bay Area thing that I've always, felt very strongly about. It's very rhythmic, very, just percussive, aggressive. That feel, as far as the delivery of vocals and things like that. So, I mean, I try to get in there and get some sweet stuff in there. Some nice, melody in there as well. But I go back to that like so often because it just feels right to me. Because I'm very much percussive. I have a relation with the drums and bass. Just how it is for me. And I don't know if that's all singers. Obviously, it is with Todd as well. But it's just there's some kind of relationship there, and so I definitely feel like I went back with that a little bit more with this record, and just because it lent itself to it. A lot of the riffs that Freddie was writing, it was just like, yeah, that I'm going totally this way with it. So, yep.
Do you have any favorite songs from this one, from this new record?
Oh man, I got all kinds. It's like, everybody asks me that. It's like trying to pick your favorite kid. You know what I mean? It's just so hard. Uh, but yeah, I mean, there are some that are pretty special to me, and even getting away from I guess the main heavy stuff of the record. But keep on walking is a song that I love, song that I wrote for my kids. You know what I mean? So it's very much sentimental. I'm an old guy, so the older I get, the more sentimental I get. So probably expect more of that shit, from me, down the line. Hopefully, I think there was one person that said, the song's okay, but I can't really relate to it. Well, it may be because you don't have any kids,
That's right.
Yeah, right for everybody, but that's why I say, a lot of this is for me, and it's got to be for me. I mean, Freddie doesn't have kids either, but at the same time, he did a fucking phenomenal job writing the music for this. I mean, I started out with the basic melody, melody guitar, melody vocal, and then we just built it, and he built it, and he's got that incredible lead stuff in there that's just soaring, and so yeah, it's you might not be able to relate to the content, but do you like the song? That's I guess that's what it's about. But anyway, I mean, I get it, man. Not everybody's gonna get the fact that it's like, well, he started out like really thrashy, and I was digging it, and then he like they put on the break power ballads. You know what I mean? But hopefully there's something on the record for everyone. Yeah, there are some standout. I mean, you were just mentioning Atrophy. It is a big one for me. I freaking love that song, man. I get on that, it just, yeah, because it really reminds me of that, and even the way that we mixed it. So we got guitars pan one way, and you hear that one pan guitar first, and then it goes, it's just it's just fun, man. That's the cool shit about making music is that you can go, oh, this reminds me of this, or I can, yeah, we're going to do it this way because that's how my idols would have done it. So, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, well, where you go, I mean, your vocals have always been versatile, even going back to the Ice Earth days. There's some monster power ballad stuff on there, and you start things slow and you get into the thrashy stuff later. But
Yeah.
that's the cool thing about your vocals is you can sing like that. I remember the project with with Jonah that you did. It was all basically piano, I think, and your vocals, from what I remember, right?
Much.
That was something different, but it showcased your vocals and how you don't need all these different layers to the sound. And you could just have him playing the piano and your vocals, and you can come up with some really cool stuff.
I mean, he did some amazing stuff, man. And that I think it really highlighted kind of both of what we do. Like his main thing is like soundscapes. I mean, he like really is a Hans Zimmer ish kind of guy. He loves that like movie soundscape kind of shit, and I love that about what he does. And I was like, well, if you did just yours and I did mine, we can put something cool together. And that's what we did. We're like, we don't need anything else. I mean, he can do all the percussion and stuff like that. It's just a matter of on keys. But that was the intent with it, just to kind of highlight what he does and what I do, or what I can do without guitars and things. And so yeah, that was fun. That was a blast.
Did you did you find at the beginning when you guys started Ashes of Aries when you came back and this was the thing that you were going to be doing? Did you get a lot of stuff from people saying, well, it's not Ice Earth, whatever, who cares?
Yeah, well, mixed bag, right? So you have some people that are like instantly hear my voice and they go, well, it's like Iced Earth, you know, but it's not Iced Earth because not we're not trying to be Iced Earth. I guess that's the point. I can't change. I literally can't change my voice. I mean, I can, do different voices and do highs and lows and all that, but it's still my voice. You're still going to hear that it's me, right? And I'm proud of what I do. So I obviously am not going to just change it just to try to be different. So I'm going to use my voice to the best of my ability, and that's that. Outside of that, then there's always the thing. Well, it's not Iced Earth. Well, because not Schaefer's not there. Well, yeah, of course it's not Iced Earth. Schaefer's not there. Schaefer is a whole other person than Freddy Vidales. They write completely different. I mean, there are certain things that are can be nods to Iced Earth where that's concerned, but it's just in that. So it's just a matter of writing styles. And so we're not trying to write Iced Earths. We don't want to be Iced Earth Part Two. We're Ashes Varies, which is funny. Then we're leading into, hey, we're going to be doing a tribute to Iced Earth on the next tour.
Well, and that's what exactly my leading into this. It was these dates in Greece and a couple dates in Germany that you're going to be doing. So, all right, well, I'll go back to the Alive in Athens stuff, right? Because of course, I'm a huge Ice Earth fan. I mean, I've told you before. Obviously, that's why I became a fan of the band with your voice and all the earlier records. That Alive record has stood the test of time, I think, for a lot of um, older metalheads, like myself that have been around a minute. Uh, the Grease fan base, I always wonder because I've heard that album so many times, the three disc one, not the two one that came out originally. The fan base there, when you go back and check at that live venue, it wasn't a ton of people. It's a small venue, but like there were rabid fans there that night when that got recorded.
It may be a small venue, but I'm thinking that maybe some of the fire codes were, well, I are in Athens, but man, holy hell, man, there were so many people inside there, and they were literally blowing us off the stage. I mean, even with the thank goodness, we had Jim Morris there producing it and get grabbing all the great sound from the cabinets and all that, and from the board. But my gosh, man, they were so loud. They were blowing us like the PA away, singing. Like whenever the crowd was singing, I couldn't hear a damn thing. I mean, it was I was going off muscle memory for most of that recording. It was, occasionally I'd like be able to hear slightly out of some PA, and that definitely changed my whole outlook at that point. Because at that point I was just going, no in ears, just being the metal guy with the sound, and I could hear John and Bert. And nah, that was just a whole other animal. So it definitely changed my opinion on in ears and how important they are, to be able to hear yourself, because that just changed everything. And so now I do use in ear, even if it's just like pop one ear just to hear that note, and then I'm good. It was crazy, man. Serious muscle memory on that doing that record.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, it stood the test of time. Where I was going to go with this is there's always been that kind of special connection there with Greece, and
Yes.
in particular that album. That there's a lot of it's yes, it's a niche thing, right? Metal is what it is, right? But that there's that connection. There's always been that connection there for you and from Ice Earth. So I'm not surprised that you're going back and playing some of these dates, but you're also doing the Dark Saga. So. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it is, and I again, that's why I'm gonna have my in ears, because I need it, man, because people are gonna be singing those songs, and those songs, I think, were they were designed that way. They were designed to be have group interaction. I think John was very intentional when he was writing that record, and it was a quite an amazing process, actually, and how quick it was, and how just absolutely amazing how when the record was released in Europe, like almost instantly people knew the songs. They were, we started touring over there on that, and it was just we were blown away, because it was like nothing that I had experienced, because I had gone over, and we went over and did a few shows to promote Burnt Offerings, and it was like just a few shows in Europe. And then almost immediately after that, we came back, and I think John started doing writing for Dark Saga, and it went really, really. I remember it went really, really quick. It seemed we spent some extra time, I think, with Jim as our new producer, and things like that, and really, took care of the songs, and really made sure that they were developed in the studio, and with a very specific idea. This was extremely uh, this was going to be the one that had the hooks in it, and it does. Almost all the songs have something hooky in the chorus, that latches on, and that you can latch onto, and there's all kind of earworms, all throughout the record, and that's what made it so cool. And then we went over there and started touring on it, and it was crazy, the amount of fan feedback. And then, of course, it wasn't until like what, another couple records, that we actually went and played Grease, man, and it was well, no, was it that was it on? I'm trying to think. Doggone it, can't remember. I can't remember the first time we went to play Grease. I want to say 98, but it probably was 97. Anyway, I don't know. But when we went to play Grease, it was like that and but amplified. Like every song, like every single song of Iced Earth, people were singing, even singing spots that weren't singing parts. They were singing to the guitar parts. It was like, you know, what we remembered from, uh, Live After Death, I mean, Iron Maidenish kind of that kind of shit. And so we were blown away, and that was the reason that John was like, if we're doing a live record, it's going to be here. And next thing you know, 1999, rolls around, and we're doing the live record in Greece. So yeah, so that would have been after Something Wicked This Way Comes, and yeah, that's why there's a lot of those songs. So yeah, yeah, it was just crazy, man. Absolutely insane.
Well,
But
and when you look at that record too, well, one, Jim, I mean, the way that whole record was recorded there, it's the sound when you're listening to it, if it puts you right in the center of that concert, and you feel the energy
yeah,
from the crowd to, from the little details that you can pick up in the instrument. The music was just spot on. Every song is when you're listening to the actual 3 disc version of Alive in Athens, there's so many songs that reflected all the good stuff from Ice Earth up to that point.
yeah,
3 hours worth, I think, of music. I think it was or close to or something like that, right? When it was all done, or there's just a ton of material there, and I think it's stood the test of time, which I think is part of the reason why you have such a cool fan base there in Greece. And it's going to be interesting to see when you play some of these songs again, like the Dark Saga, I Died for You, the Hunter, some of that stuff that people have been wanting to hear for a long time.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, that record we did over 2 nights in Athens. We did, and that's why some of the songs we did two. We did them twice. We did them each night, but then some of them are just one-offs on each night. So it was kind of cool too because, like, if you bought tickets for the different shows, then you saw a different set. You know what I mean? So, um, except for like a couple of the songs. I think maybe like "I Died for You" and like "Melancholy" things like they were done in a way so we made sure that we had the best possible take. Especially the singy songy songs. So we did them. So we made sure that one of those takes was going to be the best of what we could get. Um, and yeah, well, that's kind of leads me to the other thing. So with this tour, we're actually doing 2 nights in we're doing 2 nights in Athens as well. We sold out our first show there, and then they opened it up for another show, and we were able to sell out both nights. So that's pretty cool.
That's cool. That's great. Yeah, I wonder if, well, I mean, I know I mean, and most people know you have a day job. I mean, the you were saying before. I mean, but most most musicians nowadays they have a day job that has nothing to do with music. Most musicians in the industry, the way things are now. But I believe are you still in the police workforce still?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, so you have that going. So I'm sure that you can't just take off for 3 months at a time and go tour like some of these bands do it. Unfortunately.
No. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So it would be great to be able to do something like that in a way. Obviously, it would be great for the fans so that we could get out there and hit a bunch of dates and hit a bunch of places. But at the same time, yeah, it's tough. It's not something that I wanted to do, which is why I bowed out of Iced Earth. I wanted to be at home and have my sons watch my sons grow up and be a at home dad for them. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't go back to Ice Earth full time and all that. I mean, I did my very best with that as far as touring. I actually toured more with Ice Earth when I went back to Ice Earth than I ever did before I was in Ice Earth. We did way more shows in support of that record than I ever did in support of the records prior to that. It's crazy. I know it seems weird to think that, but I was, able to do that even with my work schedule, but it was a different situation than it is now as well. I have a lot more responsibilities in my position at work now. So I can't, be gone for, huge swaths of time. But I do my very best I can, utilizing my vacation time and things like that to be able to do these shows. So hopefully everybody understands that and maybe meet me halfway. If I get over to Europe, then try to, meet me somewhere. You know,
Right.
go to Greece, have a holiday there. Base your holiday around, maybe around an Ashes Berry show. That would be
Yeah.
fantastic.
I was gonna bring this up, but I'm sure you remember, and this was probably the first tour. So the first time that we cover Ashes of Aries, I think it was the first time you guys went to Europe in support of for the first record. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. This was in 2013. You guys played at the Underworld. You opened for Powerwolf and Battle Beast.
Yep.
This is a long time ago now, but we were there. One of my guys over there who runs the UK stuff, the Europe part of the magazine, he covered that show, and it's interesting to go back and see. Hey, you're still making music. These other two bands are, Powerwolf's become pretty big over there in Europe and here too. They tour here in the US a lot.
Yep.
It's just interesting to see that. I mean, this was, 12 years ago now. Like, this is crazy, right? It's been so long since you started
Yeah.
this new journey of Ashes of Aries.
Yeah. It's been a minute, man. And it's kind of wild. That's another kind of wild thing. So I've actually since I mean, granted, there's been more time involved, but I've done more. I've actually done more studio records since I've been a police officer than before I was a police officer. So and I know there's more time in there for sure, but like I've done, uh, Pyramids, I've done Iced Earth, I've done Four Ashes of Aries records, I've done, the project with Jonah, I've done, all kinds of guest spots here and there, and so I've like my discography is grown, bigger since I've been a police officer than prior to it. I just thought about that like not too long ago, and I kind of put it in perspective. I go, that's kind of weird, right? But it is what it is. I mean, I was given, I was certainly uh, blessed with, the ability to, or the just being in the right space, the right time, I guess, to be able to audition um, for Iced Earth, and that definitely launched me into the world of recorded heavy metal music, right? So that's pretty damn cool, man. And I definitely feel as though I was blessed in a great many ways. Just happened to know um, Rodney Beasley, who was the drummer for Iced Earth prior to me joining. I knew him from hanging out and working out and with my brother's band in a storage facility that he and his band worked out in. And, he mentioned me to John and said, "Hey, I know this guy down in Bradenton, Florida, and, I think that he might be a good fit." So it's just crazy how that shit works out. And so I definitely am very appreciative of how things have gone for me. I definitely know that I was able to just be sometimes just right place, right time. And I'm extremely appreciative of that. And, think that in many ways that I've been blessed with those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the only thing we need is to have Ashes of Aries go on tour with Queensrÿche, and then that would be something.
That was right. That would be cool. They're constantly touring, man. They are touring so much. It's crazy. But I gotta say, it would not, that would not hurt my feelings at all. Because
I think that would be quite a bill, to be
yeah,
honest with you. You and Todd singing Ashes of Aries and Queensryche songs.
yeah, that's the thing, man. They're just freaking great people, and that's the other beautiful part of it. I mean, that was the best part about I started touring so much with Nevermore. They were just great people, and we enjoyed it. We just had a great time, and so it was like touring, but not just like basically hanging out with friends for a month. So
Yeah. I was going to ask you a couple more things, and then I want to be mindful of your time because it's getting late over there on your end. But so the cover, the Elton John cover song, who came up with that one?
so Freddie really wanted to do a tribute to Sir Elton on this record, and I was like 100% cool with it. And obviously the guy's influenced he's how many hits does he have, right? And just so I grew up in the '70s, '80s, when he was definitely huge, but it was really tough for us to try to figure out what song to do, and I'm scratching my head. I'm like, I don't know. He's got so many freaking hits. I don't want to pick the wrong one and do it, not do it justice. I don't want to, don't want to kind of tear it apart but anyway, my wife is a big Elton John fan as well. And this song was in her kind of like in her YouTube rotation. She got the YouTube channel, paid whatever, and it's just kind of like on her regular thing. So she was like, "Well, I really like this song, and it's cool the kind of the message and all that. It's kind of a bit about addiction and things bringing you down and hopefully getting out of that and so I'm like, okay, that's cool for me. I'm down with that because that's something that affects on my everyday life. I mean, I see it a lot, and it's horrible. And if there's if this is a positive message, then great. So I floated it to Freddie, and he's like, yes, I'm on board. I'll start working on it. So he started working the adaptation. Because obviously it's definitely a piano heavy original because it's Elton John, but I think he did a freaking awesome job kind of doing that conversion. And I wanted to take it on a little bit different vibe because it's got a big ragtime feel, kind of, Southern Louisiana kind of that to me. That's what I was kind of getting from the way it was the original. And it was weird because I was thinking about there's this other, my wife really loves this Disney. She's not like a Disney princess follower or anything, but there's one song or there's one movie she really likes called The Princess and the Frog. And it is cool, and it's got kind of dark elements to it too because they're dealing with witchcraft and things like that. And there's this one witch doctor in there, and his delivery of this song and the way that he is, it kind of that song for whatever reason reminded me of that. So I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could kind of deliver it in that kind of way, kind of like the kind of creepy, just kind of get really low with my vocals and kind of have them. And some people have said it sounds a little bit like Tom Waits, which is cool. I mean, that right. So that's what I did. I just wanted it to be different. I wanted it to be different than every other song on the record. It's a tribute to Sir Elton, but at the same time, we wanted to make it, Ashes of Aries, but also make it darker and kind of grittier and things like that. So hopefully we accomplished that. We wanted to make something just different and
Definitely different. And I know the movie, but I mean, I have two kids. I know the movie. It's a Disney movie. It's a very popular movie with kids that watch Disney. So I know where you're coming from with that. I think it was set in New Orleans, I think, where the movie's set. So I understand where you're coming from with the Bible on that one. That makes sense. I think it did. I think it did come across that way.
all right, cool.
Well, good. I think fans will probably want to know that. It's listed as a CD bonus track. So there you go. If anybody has questions about it, now they know the backstory behind it.
Yep, yep.
I was going to ask you, of course, everybody's putting their memories of, Ozzy passed away yesterday. What are your kind of memories of, him or Black Sabbath? Obviously, they were monumental in the genre for a lot of people. So,
They really were, man. And it's crazy, man. I did a little tribute on the Ashes page, and I do. Like I said, man, I'm an old guy. I get sentimental, and I saw a lot of the tributes and things like that. And I guess people see Ozzy in a lot of different ways, and they a lot of people see him in his in his stage mode. And I was going through some photos and things of Ozzy, and I saw this older one where he's just a young man. He's you can tell it's at the kind of the beginning of his journey. And I mean he's definitely in Black Sabbath, no doubt, but he's just I don't know. And I thought about like how does his family see him? And I think that this picture like represents how his family would see him. Like he's just a human being. And again, sorry, get a little sentimental, but that's the way that I think that
we all, I know, have different versions of, who Ozzy is, because we see him as a, a character, but he's not a character, he's a human being. And he contributed a lot. And I think that his contributions are timeless. They really are. And I think that he's joined Ronnie James and so many others, Lemmy, and just people that I grew up listening to and really idolizing. But at the end of the day, we have to remember that they're human beings. They are very mortal, as we all are, and they have loved ones that also miss them deeply, and will be struggling with those things for some time.
Yeah,
So
I agree, man. It's been I mean, you see it. I mean, it just a lot of different people's opinions on Ozzy, whether they knew him personally or just because of the music. I think Alice Cooper said something to that effect where, when you lose I don't know how he worded it exactly. He didn't say rock god, but somebody of that stature, like a Lemmy or something like that from Motorhead, it hits different. When you lose the grandeurs of the music.
yeah,
And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not just the character that he was. There was a lot of people say how funny and wild he was behind the scenes. I think he wasn't the same character that some people depicted of him when he was on stage. So I mean,
yeah,
that's a good way of putting it too. But it's a legacy thing too. I mean, I try to express this to people every time I talk to them, whether it's in an interview or at a concert. If you're a new generation of fans, whether you're a teenager now and your dad is, like us, we've been around a minute, and we listen to all this great stuff from the 80s and before that. Take take them out to some of these shows before these older rock stars are gone, for good, because there's been quite a few in the last decade that have passed on, unfortunately, and it's not the same, man. It's not the same. There's a whole legacy of music that who knows where it goes from here? I mean, a lot of people complain about how the music scene is now. It's just not the same. We don't have those same personalities that we'd had before in a lot of ways, and it's hard to find them. So when people like this are, pass on, and it's hard to replace them. They're irreplaceable, really.
yep, correct.
Um, I always say that go out to the shows who you want to introduce the younger generation of fans to some of the music that they're not familiar with. And there's just so much material there from Black Sabbath all the way on to the solo stuff. So he will definitely be missed. He was one of a kind for sure.
Sure.
Um, I was going to say a couple things and then we'll wrap up. The record is coming out on 8th of August on Roar.
Yep.
If you liked any of Ashes of Aries' previous stuff, you're gonna enjoy this record. I mean, the music is always top notch. I think the chemistry between you and Freddie is always great. I think you've gotten better every record. It's cool. You have a couple different tracks in there, from one that's more of a ballad to the cover. I think that's cool. The fans they like hearing things like that are different. But yeah, at the end of the day, you kind of paved your own avenues from where you were in Ice Earth, and you continue, like you said, you got this long catalog of music now that you've made, and it's a lot of really cool stuff there. Your voice is still great. You keep it in great shape. And maybe some of that is genetics, and maybe some of that is just because you mentioned before you're not touring all the time because you can't because you're trying to pay bills like regular Joes like us. So, whatever the combination is, you've been blessed in a lot of different ways with your talent, and to be able to keep producing for fans like myself and just people that have been around a minute. So I think that's cool. If you enjoyed all those things, you would go out and get this and the new Ashes of Aries record because everything's done well and high quality. And that's what I expect from you when you make a record. So.
Yep. Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, if I wish you luck on the tour. I know it's only a few dates. Seems like it's probably like a week or so, a week.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. I know you wish you could do more, but I'm sure it's going to be insane over there in Greece when you guys get over there.
And yeah, we're doing 13 shows in 2 weeks. Now all the shows haven't been announced yet, I don't think. But it's getting ready to drop. So we're doing 13 shows in 2 weeks. So it's gonna be tight. We're gonna do a lot. We're gonna do more shows in more countries than we did on the last tour.
That's awesome. The lucky Europeans. Yeah, I only see the 5 dates here through Poland. That's the last one that's on the website. So that's good. So good. Maybe some of some other European countries will get more lucky than us here in the States.
Yeah, and we'll do our best, man. But like I said,
it's about the dollars and cents, man. And you know, so we really rely on local promoters to reach out and get us places. You know, if we could do it ourselves, we would, but it's tough. You know, it's definitely a tough market. The U.S. is huge, and not to say that Europe isn't huge, but the U.S. is huge, and it's got its own challenges where that's concerned, and we have to be able to pay our musicians and our sound people and all that other good stuff. So it costs. If we play in Europe, we can sell out shows, and then that pays the bills. So that's kind of the difference, right? So
One thing you can count on is somebody will record the show at one of these places and they'll post it on YouTube and everybody will go crazy over it because that's literally what people do at shows now. So
happens. Yep.
free promotion, I suppose. But listen, thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate getting on the slot later in the week. So thank you
Yep.
again, and it's good catching up with you. It's been a couple of years, so I'm hoping everything goes well with the record and maybe one of these days, man, we can see you on the road somewhere on this side of the pond, I hope.
I mean,
All right, brother. I'm gonna hit in here. Thank you. I hope you have a good day, okay?
take care of yourself, man. Have a good night.
Take care.
See ya.
All right.
Heavy metal rock. Global mind.